Hey guys, Coach Hef here again, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about flexible dieting. Okay, so flexible dieting is something I learned on the Bayesian bodybuilding course that's run by Menno Heltzelman. He's really the guy to go for if this interests you and you want to know a little bit more about it. Beyond what I talk about today, check out his stuff, BayesianBodybuilding.com. It's pretty incredible. It's a good website, and you can get in touch with him to go into a little bit more detail. That's if you don't want to talk to me. Obviously, you can get in touch with me, and we can go through it in a bit more detail. But let's get straight to it because I want to keep this video as short and compact as I can. Okay, don't want anyone to get bored. So let's talk about flexible dieting. What is it? Flexible dieting is a method of dieting that prioritizes nutrient density and diversity, and the self-regulation of your appetite over caloric restriction, tracking calories, and excluding foods. Okay, so there are two different models of doing it. There are certain programs out there that work very well of caloric restriction and food exclusions, but it doesn't suit everybody. I find flexible dieting particularly beneficial because it's less stressful. There's a whole heap of benefits that I'll go through now, and I want to talk to you guys about it to give you some options to let you know there's an alternative to all this calorie and macro and protein carb tracking that people seem to be doing at the moment. So what does it do? It allows you to lose fat, gain muscle, and without tracking your macros. Okay, so succinctly put, that's what it does. The pros are it's a low stress. It is more flexible in terms of food selection. You're going to have a lot more options of things that you can eat. It's more sustainable as a consequence of that. It's easier to eat out. It's almost foolproof, and it reduces cravings. Okay, because of the inclusion, we can include some foods that may be excluded on other dietary templates, and it can help reduce cravings and just make it a bit more manageable. That'll make it a bit more sense once we go into the details. The cons of flexible dieting are you're not going to get super shredded, you're not going to be in contest shape should you follow this plan, and it does require a high level of personal accountability. So you really have to be brutally honest with yourself and make some very, mature decisions around your diet and your lifestyle, so as not to over-consume calories or just to kind of let things slip. Because if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, if you're playing fast and loose with your flexible dieting, it's not going to work. Okay, you do need to be mindful, you do need to be focused on what the end goal is and what is actually necessary to get you to where you want to go. Okay, so it's all about energy intake, and if you've watched any of my calorie videos before, you know energy intake is just another way of saying calories. It's the energy that we get from food. Okay, but what does that mean for us on a day-to-day basis? Well, energy intake is we eat to control our appetite, not feel hungry, and that's regulated by the satiety of the foods that we eat. So if you guys type into Google satiety index, it's a little bit dated. There may be some new ones on there. I haven't checked in a little while. But if you type satiety index into Google, you go to images, you'll get a chart. Okay? And a chart is basically just a list of high satiety foods to low satiety foods. Sometimes it's broken up into food groups. Sometimes it's not. You're going to have it in a while, but check it out. You'll get basically a little image you can save to your phone if you like, or you can save to your computer and choose as a reference on how to build a shopping list. Okay, so what you want to do is basically collect a list of, or base your shopping on prioritizing as many kind of high satiety foods as you can, so that we get as much nutrition per 100 grams that decreases the appetite as much as possible, with everything that we eat. So for example, bread compared to potatoes. Okay, 100 grams of potatoes, I think it's 3 times more satiating, if I remember correctly. It's 3 times more satiating than 100 grams of bread. Okay, so obviously, if you're trying to diet, keep your calorie intake low, your carb intake under control. Again, we're not tracking those things, but that's what we're trying to do essentially with flexible dieting. A high satiety food choice is going to be the best option in comparison to something that's low satiety, like bread or rice or something like that. So keep that in mind going forward. We're going to be looking at, the foods and everything that adds up to what makes a food satiating right now. So food satiety is made up of the volume of food, so how much space it takes up in the stomach. Fiber, how fibrous is it? So obviously this is more relevant for vegetables and fruits. Viscosity, so comes into context when we talk about dairy in the diet, so you're going to see how thick it is. Things like, cream cheese, quark, those things are, or cream cheese, skyr is the Nordic yogurt. They're a lot thicker. They're a lot more cement-like in their texture. Whereas something like a petit filou or a yop, again, it's dairy, milk being the least viscous. It's very liquidy, it's very runny. The more viscous a food is, the higher the satiety it's going to have. Palatability, obviously very important. It's very important that we enjoy the foods that we eat, that they're palatable to our tastes. So this is important. And then protein, again, can influence satiety. Now this is only really true with newer trainees, people who have had a low or under-consumed protein for a long time. They will find protein more satiating than people who have been, consuming a high level of protein on a daily basis. I'm not sure of the science why, but for some reason protein loses its satiety over time the more adapted you become to having it in high volumes in your system. Okay, so to give you an example of some low satiety foods, you've got sugars, whey, candies, chicken nuggets, French fries, things that are really unhealthy, biscuits being another one. Things that they don't really take up a lot of space in your stomach. When you chew them, they go right down into a very soft mush, and they'll sink down low in your stomach. They're not going to hit any of those sensory receptors in the stomach itself to say that it's full. We have sensors all over the stomach, and they kind of act to tell the body, when your stomach is literally full and it's full of vegetables, meat, whatever you've eaten, it'll fill up like a shopping bag, like putting food in your shopping bag. And as the food touches the sides, it lets the brain know that you're close to being full. Whereas if what you eat is just everything sinks to the bottom, it's all mushy, it's all soft, it all sinks right down, you feel full for a little while, but you're probably going to feel quite hungry within a couple of hours. So it's important that the foods that we eat have a high volume. So think when you're planning out certainly your lunches and your dinners, have more vegetables, things like broccoli, asparagus, peppers, tomatoes. Chunky veg that's going to take up space in your stomach. Carrots, parsnips, things like that. They're really wise to include because they take up volume. Okay, they're also high in fiber. So we take 2 boxes straight away off the list of food satiety and making sure what we eat is satiating. Viscosity again only really applies to dairy-based foods, liquid-based foods. I guess sauces would come into context there as well. Rich sauces are going to be more viscous and more filling. But with sauces, be very careful because they're usually quite high in calories. Think rich foods. Okay, rich foods are high in calorie dense. And again, if you're not having them with things like vegetables with high volume, high fiber, and proteins, again, all those calories sink down. You're going to take in more calories and it's not going to help you control your appetite. High satiety foods, some examples are going to be things like chicken breast, and potato, quark, avocado, that type of thing. Okay, but again, stick satiety index into Google, have a look, and it's going to give you a breakdown of a good few foods that you can start to base your list on. And my advice to people would be, get a spreadsheet or start something on your phone or on a Word file and start putting together a list of foods that you like, the most palatable foods on one column, and then the ones that you don't like on the other side. Okay, or sorry, that's incorrect. The list should be all foods that you like with high satiety foods on one side and low satiety foods on the other. So when you hit the shops and you're doing your shopping, you can start to base the bulk of your shopping off those high satiety foods, and then we bring the low satiety foods in towards the end. Okay, so I hope you're all with me so far. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm going to do another couple of minutes on this, just on what other things that you need to be aware of if you're following a flexible dieting template that are going to contribute to making this as easy and as successful as possible. Okay, so the first thing we talk about is appetite. Everybody has an appetite, and the control or regulation of that appetite is what makes a diet good or bad, I suppose. Anybody who's dieted before knows how hard it is, purely from becoming hungry or having cravings for certain foods. That's what makes dieting hard. If we didn't have those things, it would be very much a case of just rationalizing what you're eating and when you're eating and following a template. But that's a little bit mechanical, it's a little bit more robotic. As humans, we have things that interfere with that whole system being rational. Okay, so it's not just physical, it's psychological as well. Your appetite is very psychologically based. It's also sensory specific. Okay, so we're going to talk about the taste first. Taste senses. You've got 5 of them. You've got sweet, you've got salty, you've got sour, you've got bitter, and you've got umami. Okay, sweet we know, bitter we know, sour we know, salty we know. You may or may not be familiar with umami, but umami is that meaty taste or texture that you get that craving for. If you ever had a craving for a steak, or nuts would be another one. Nuts are umami. A lot of sea vegetables that we get from the sea, so like seaweed, Japanese food, has a lot of umami taste in it. But you have an appetite for each one of these. So technically, in that sense, we have 5 appetites. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? We have an appetite for each one of these. The more variety in a meal, the greater your appetite is going to be. This is why you always have room for dessert, because your dinner may not have a huge amount of sweetness in it, and then you have your big meal, your big dinner, your Sunday roast, whatever it is. You feel full, and then Granny rolls out the ice cream and jelly. All of a sudden, you've got space in your stomach for that. So that's what I mean by having an appetite for everything and manipulating that. The different tastes and flavors within your meals can help control this. Okay, so having a little bit of sweet, a little bit of salty, a little bit of sour, can help. But even creating the illusion of having less of those foods, or a range of those foods, in your meal, will help with appetite control. Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the availability of food. Okay. First thing we'll say is proximity to food. So when you're close to food. This is why, like, you may have a big breakfast. You get into the office, 11 o'clock rolls around. 11s are starting to kick in, because there's coffee, there's tea, there's biscuits down in the canteen, and it's there. And even though you're not really that hungry, the more you think about it, the more hungry you get. Okay, this is why people who snack at their desk, I find, have a much harder time progressing than people who don't. People who bring snacks and are become dependent on snacks, because they always have those snacks on standby, they're quite close by. There's always a sense of hunger with them that they tend to struggle with. So proximity to food is something that you need to be mindful of. Okay, if you're close to a shop, or you're close to a fridge or the canteen in work, you may perceive yourself to be hungry at certain times, but you may just be bored and your brain is kicking in and going, oh, there's food close by, you could go and eat something. So be mindful of that. The other thing in terms of availability of food is what's known as the clean plate effect. So the clean plate effect describes how, when a portion of food or meal is put in front of us, we have a desire to clear the plate. Okay, and on average, studies show that we clear on about 91.7% of what's on the plate. Okay, now this links to perceived intake, or the Delboeuf illusion. Okay, if you type Delboeuf, Delboeff, illusion, into Google, you're going to get a series of images. Okay, it's most likely going to be 5 circles around a central circle, and you have to determine which one is the biggest, or are they all the same size. It's an optical illusion. Basically, the brain is tricked into thinking that there's one of the shapes is larger or smaller than the others. But if we simply, by having smaller plates, if you're trying to lose weight and you know that portion control is an issue, get smaller plates. Okay, if you eat off a smaller plate, your brain thinks the clearing of that smaller plate should have the same satiating effect as if you were to have more food on a larger plate. So you have less calories, less food taken in a meal, but the same perception of fullness. Okay? Hunger entrainment comes back to meal frequency. Okay? How frequently do we eat? And when do we get hungry? Okay? So when it comes to hunger entrainment, it's true to say that people who eat at regular intervals, day in and day out, have better hunger control than people who don't. Irregular dieting and skipping meals, dropping meals here and there, eating when it suits, not eating at the same time, is a lot more problematic in terms of managing and controlling your hunger than were you to be eating at regular times. Say, you have your breakfast at 7, your lunch at 1, and your dinner at 7. You want to try and train yourself to eat at these regular intervals. Your body will start to expect food at these times, and it will, keep hunger down between the two. But again, snacking and things like that can really interfere. So make sure that your meals are sufficiently packed with everything that you need, and that you feel they leave you feeling full at the end. Okay. So again, high satiety foods are going to help you to do that. Okay. There's this kind of circadian rhythm effect to all this. And that just means that you get hungry when you expect to eat, okay? Whereas, like I said before, meal skipping leads to poor hunger control. So, in training yourself to eat at regular times can be, or actually it is an essential part of a successful, flexible diet. Your perceived intake of food, we already spoke about that. Sleep, okay? More sleep equals better hunger control. Okay, studies show that the difference between getting 6 hours sleep against 8 hours sleep can have a 20% increase in perceived hunger. Oh, that's awkward. So 20% increase in perceived hunger coming from 6 to 8 hours sleep. Okay, so if you get 6 hours sleep, you're more tired, you're more likely to consume up to about 20% more food. Okay, when you're less hungry, when you're better rested, you get 8 hours sleep, you should have much better hunger control. You should eat less between meals. And I think that's pretty much everything that I need to cover with flexible dieting today. I'm sure I'll have another video on it in the future. In the meantime, leave some comments below. Let me know if there's anything that I didn't cover or didn't explain very well, and I'm happy to go through it again. If you like what we're doing, please be sure to subscribe. Check us out on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. All the links should be in our bio. And I hope that this has been helpful. And hopefully you'll tune into our next video. Have a good one, guys.